Good morning, Martin. Thanks for joining us again on the podcast. How are we doing?
All right, good, mate. You okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. So I got you back onto the podcast. We had such a good conversation last time. I think it was over an hour we ended up speaking last time. I wanted to get you on again to maybe go into a little bit more detail into some of the points that we covered, but for more practical advice for people. So it'll be a little shorter episode, but looking at some details of addiction and how to deal with it, so people can literally listen to this, take some advice from your experiences and go and put it into action. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's good, mate. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
No worries. So the first thing I thought it'd be interesting to talk about is environment. And what I mean by environment is that for me, environment is key. It kind of beats willpower. If you're putting yourself into a constructive environment, you're gonna be absorbed by the qualities and the values of that environment. So if you put yourself in a negative environment, you're going to be easily swayed. For example, how important is the environment, and how easy was it for you to remove yourself from the environment when you were going through your addiction and your substance abuse?
Yeah, it's a great point that you make, Dave, and I find myself speaking about this every day when we're coaching, and whether it's addiction coaching or just normal day-to-day life coaching. I talk all the time about people and places. That's what we talk about. So people and places could be the people that you're drinking with, the people that you're taking drugs with. It could be the people that you're hanging around the park with, because we've been doing stuff in like high schools,
Right.
Or people and places could be, don't know, could be anything. Could be the rugby club you play in, or that, you know, being around individuals and situations that are negative and potentially bad for you. I think it's varied with me, because I hit me absolute rock bottom. I had no choice than to change my people and places, because I would have ended up in jail, you know, or in a box. So mine was a real, you know, short, sharp shock that I had to. But but then mine was a bit different, because then I had to, once it hit me rock bottom, I had to work out how I was going to maintain my sobriety. Some people's and places can just be not going to the same pub, or changing that habit of going to pub after work because they're a brickie, or they're a plasterer, or they're a joiner, and that's what you do in the building trade. You go to the pub at 5 o'clock. So just so then people and places was that, and I've done that recently, where I've just made simple changes. Where I've said, I was working with a guy the other week who was in the building industry, and he said, "Well, I go to pub at 5 o'clock. That's what everybody does." I said, "Well, okay. What time do you start work?" He said, 8. What time do you get up? He said, "Well, I'm up early. I'm up with my dogs about 6 o'clock." I said, "Well, what about starting at 7 and finishing at 3:30, 4 o'clock? You don't go to pub at 3:30, do you, or 4 o'clock?" He went, "No, nobody will be in there." I said, "Okay." So that was his people and places. And once he hadn't done that for 2 weeks, he found other things to do. He wasn't going to pub at 5 o'clock, because he realised that when he finished work at 3:30, he could get home early, so he wasn't sat in the traffic, so he wasn't stressed out.
Yeah.
And he was deciding, and he was going to driving range, or he was going for a run. So that's the low end of it. The other end is obviously the people who you're taking the drugs with, the people who you're drinking with, or whatever it is. If it's a gambling addiction, you know, don't go in the betting shop, because them people who are in there are the ones who you're going to talk about the horse racing with, who are going to give you the tip, who are going to tell you that machine on the right hand side is probably about to pay out, and that, you know, you and I have spoke about this a lot in coaching. I say we deal in common sense. Well, for me, for somebody who's got their act together, telling somebody who's got a gambling addiction not to go in the betting shop seems like stating the obvious. But when someone's in the middle of that, it just seems normalize it. So I think people and places is absolutely massive, and not just to do with drug and alcohol addiction, but with drug and alcohol addiction, it does tend to be a much bigger thing, because predominantly you're going to be using with other people, probably. I mean, a lot of people don't get me wrong, and even if you're doing it on your own, change that up. Do it so that the people isn't just you or the person. Find a crowd, go to a park, go to the gym, go somewhere where you haven't got that time on your own, so that can work both ways now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that I've never really thought about it in that detail before, but to set to people, like, the pub is such, like, I think we spoke about it last time, but it's such a socially accepted place to go. People might not think they've got that kind of problem, and they think they're around people as well, so that it's actually quite a positive environment. But really, it's having that awareness in it that is, if that is the root cause, the alcohol, then you have got to remove yourself from that environment. It's having that awareness again, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I was working with a guy the other week, and I said, stop going to the pub, mate, after work. And he was like, well, I've got to go to the pub. I said, why? He said, because that's where all my mates go. I said, no, they're not your mates. They're just fellow alcoholics. Because if they're in the pub at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they've been there since 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're going to go home drunk at 8 o'clock, they've got a problem. It's not normal to be having 10 pints every day. You think it is, and the fact that you think it is because they're sound fellas and they're ex-businessmen and they've got a few quid, you've normalised it. It's not, that is not normal. Yeah. Go to the pub and have your lunch and have a glass of wine and whatever. Go back to work. But sitting there all day, and these are like, because they're educated people and it's in a nice area, doesn't mean they haven't got a problem. You haven't got to be sat in the Weatherspoons in a rough high street to have a problem. You can be sat in a nice wine bar somewhere. That's the danger of it. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And then he got it, and he was like, "No, you're right." I said, "We are." And we done a little exercise. I said, "If you didn't go to the pub and didn't see them, and you didn't go in for 3 or 4 days, how many of them would ring you?" And he said, "I'm not sure." So, well, let's try it. So we did it, and nobody contacted them. And the reason why they never contacted them, because outside that pub, they had no use to them. So it wasn't a friendship. It was just other people sharing the same hobby, which was going and boozing all day.
So how you talked before about, it seems common sense to people who are on the outside looking in. It seems common sense to say, just remove yourself from the pub, don't go in the betting shop. So for people who are actually on the inside and you can't see the wood for the trees, for the want of a better phrase, would it be a good exercise to maybe sit down, and especially if these are people who are maybe on the outside successful people, they would plan their day, wouldn't they? They would have business meetings, either in everywhere. I'm doing this at 10, I'm in the gym at 11, whatever. They would plan their day, wouldn't they? Would it be a good exercise to maybe plan out the day and see when they've been going to the pub or when they've been going to the betting shop, so they can identify maybe a pattern over the course of a week? They might look at that and go, fucking hell, I've been in the pub every night for like 3 hours, and they might not be able to see it when they're in amongst it, but looking at it on a piece of paper, on a planner, that might be a bit of an eye-opener.
Oh, definitely. We talk all the time about journals, and obviously the journals that Katie Sheridan's launched with Max Edge. They're mega, mate, because I use them all the time, and just to log, and you're absolutely spot on. Just to log it, and just do like you do a food diary.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to come across. Yeah, like a food diary. Yeah.
People have got allergies. If you go to the doctor and you say, I can't work out what's making me ill. Okay, well, for a week, write down what you eat. Well, that journal for me is it's a life diary, isn't it? So it's but also
an objective view of what you've done that week, innit?
Yeah,
you can't deny it. You can't. It's there. Yeah.
No, because a normal diary, you hit the nail on there before. A normal diary is Zoom meeting Dave Drury 9:30, 10 set off for meeting in St. Helens at 12. It's a time and a place. It's not an emotion, is it? So if you're putting in a journal, had 5 pints, came home, fell asleep halfway through watching something with Netflix, Mrs. not happy, didn't have a great night's sleep, woke up in the morning a bit groggy. You know what I mean? you're spot on, and that's why them journals are brilliant. And then the likes of me and you look back and go, right, let's have a look at the previous week, mate. How did it go? Oh, did you go to the gym? No, to be honest, I didn't, because I was knackered, or I felt groggy, and so and it was so and so's birthday, so we went and had a bite to eat, and then what did that lead to? Well, I ended up having 2 bottles of wine, and then someone had a bit of Charlie, and then it was, before I know it, I was.
Yeah.
But I got up for work the next day. Okay, well, how did that go? Well, I had a meeting, but I was in right crank. I was in a narc, and I bit someone's head off, and it hasn't gone well. So that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's just having that overview, and that's what we're doing all the time with the coaching. And it goes back to, and I don't get bored of saying this, we said this when we did the big podcast, which we could have gone on for about 3 days, by the way. It's just be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that, mate, that's honestly, that's what I'm saying all the time. Whether to young people, to old people, whoever it is, any walk of life, are you putting the best shift in that day for your brand, for you as a person?
Yeah, that's massive. And I think that's what I want to try and achieve with these little 4 smaller, more concise conversations. Is we kind of spoke about that. That was the big theme of the larger podcast that we did. How do you become the better version? And hopefully these 4 little segments will start to help people action that, because that's going to be the big question. Well, how do you become the best version of yourself? And hopefully by these little 4 conversations, we can start to put things into place that the best version of yourself is constantly reviewing, constantly looking backwards to see what's happened and how you can get better. And hopefully as we get to the next topics, that will be the start of people being able to be the best version of themselves, hopefully.
Definitely. And I think to summarize this little one is basically just have an honest look at what you're doing, and just try a little circuit breaker. Just try a little circuit breaker that makes a small change. It doesn't have to be huge. Just a small change to where you want to be, and just see how that goes, and log it, and then try some, just try and switch it up. That's the biggest message I'd give on this one. Yeah.
So when we're talking about switching it up, like we've looked at the environments that may be negative, would you suggest, or how did you replace the environment, or did you replace the environment with something else? Was it something more constructive, or?
Yeah, well, I threw myself into my family, because I've been missing for that long. Like, so I just threw myself into being a better dad and a better husband. So it was pretty easy for me, because I had that release right there. Some people aren't going to have that, but hobbies are good. Hobbies are really good. Like all the stuff you do with the fitnesses, as you well know, the benefits of that. That's not going to be for everybody. I don't know. Read a book, find something. Everybody's got an interest. Like, I'll go to bed tonight and there'll be 5 things I haven't done. You'll do the same, because we get a bit caught up with life. So pick one of them things, whatever it is. Knit might be knitting, it might be going to golf. I don't know, just something that you haven't done.
I think animals, I know it sounds off the cuff, but animals is a big one as well, isn't it? Because there's that level of responsibility with it as well. It's another you've got to look after, or another. You know what I mean?
Just something that you haven't been doing that you enjoy. Everybody's got one of them, mate. Don't care who you are. Everybody's got one of them. It might be doing a bit of art. It could be anything at all. Just find something that sort of ignites you with something different. Yeah. And that's a great start, because it's something that you haven't been doing and you've missed. You're probably going to enjoy it straight away, aren't you? And then once you get into it and you get absorbed. I was speaking to somebody the other day about diet, and they were trying to lose weight and was dropping the calorie control. And what he said was, sitting watching the telly isn't going to work, because you're just sitting there feeling hungry, thinking, what can I go and eat out the fridge? So doing a bit of artwork, doing a word search, or just something to keep your mind not thinking about food.
Even looking back at what you enjoyed in school, or when you was in school, what kind of things did you enjoy that as life happens you kind of neglected and they fell by the wayside? So like you say, I was massively into like art and stuff at school, and it's something I've not pursued as an adult. But if you are struggling to find hobbies or other interests, what were your interests when you were growing up or when you was at school, and try and reignite those flames that were passionate back then? Yeah,
100%. Music's a big thing as well. So all that stuff, and it's readily available to us. It's not something that we've got to majorly go out of our way for, and it's not anything that's expensive. It can just be a simple thing that is going to take our mind to somewhere different to whatever that thing was we've been doing. And that's a great starting point.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin. I think we'll leave that first segment there then. We've nicely summarised by yourself at the end there. You touched on something towards the end about you threw yourself into your family. Obviously, some people aren't going to have that. So we'll touch on that in the next little segment, dealing with the people who you've left and the people you want to start to reconcile with, all right? So,
perfect.
Cheers for that, Martin.
Cheers, Dave. Cheers, mate. Take care.